Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Pointless Top 10, a show where we make top 10 lists of pointless things, where we fly and buy pointless statue in Booty Bay, because inside pointless things are treasure. Let's begin. 10. Number 10 are the Fell Corruptors, which are servants of the Burning Legion in the Blade's Edge Mountains. And I've always found these mobs really cool for a few reasons. One is they are wearing the Tier 3 Warlock set, which I think looks kind of wacky and cool. And number 2 is I always felt they were a little odd in Blade's Edge to just stumble across these Fell Corruptors, and I don't know, they felt a little out of place, but they also felt, I think, more interesting because of how out of place they felt. Does that make sense? And so the whole idea behind them is that they're just going around and corrupting stuff, and so there's a quest where you just got to go kill them and kill the things that they've corrupted, like the Scale Wings or the Dagger Moth. And I was actually going to put these guys on unusual mobs in World of Warcraft, which is a list that I made a few weeks ago, but then I was thinking about it and I'm like, these guys are really cool though, and I was like, I could just make a cool mobs in World of Warcraft list, and so that's why I made this list, as well as one other mob that I'll mention when we get there. But either way, I love these mobs. Whenever I think of Blade's Edge, I always think of these mobs, and so that's why I put them at number 10. 9. Number 9 are the Mosshair Mammoths, and the Mosshair Mammoths are mammoths located in the Yonaran Plains. And I can still remember seeing the artwork for these back when they introduced Dragonflight, and it was probably one of my favorite things that was being shown for the game, which shows, you know, the type of things I look for in World of Warcraft. People are like, you look at the delves or the mythic dungeons? I'm like, dude, they got some cool mammoths with moss growing on them. Also, shout out to this weird spirit creature beast thing that was just running around knocking all the animals in its way up into the air. I figured he was worth including because he actually is pretty cool as well. And then we also have Trunkalump here, who is a baby mosshair mammoth, and he's just walking around, so we got to include him as well, right? But circling back to the actual mosshair mammoths, I just think they're really cool. I love when they take an animal and kind of blend nature into it, you know what I mean? How it's got moss and like rocky textures growing all over it. I think that's a really cool concept, and I'm sure there's some other animals in the game like this, but I hope they do it more because I like it, and so that's why the Mosshair Mammoths are number 9. 8. Number 8 is Tarlna the Ageless, and Tarlna the Ageless is a world boss found in Gorgrond. And at first I actually thought it was Tarina the Ageless, and apparently a bunch of other people did too, because on Wowhead the top comment is, it's Tarlna, not Tarina, stop calling them Tarina. And here's the thing, apparently Tarlna is a copy-paste from Yalnu, who is the final boss of the Everbloom dungeon. However, I think Tarlna's just cooler. Like, if you read the adventure guides, Yalnu's is just like, Yalnu was drawn to the Kirin Tor outpost in Gorgrond by strange energies radiating from the bluff. And then there's some other stuff there. But if you read Tarlna's, it says, it is said that before Tarlna arrived in Gorgrond, the entire region was a barren wasteland. It is said that verdant life springs up in the wake of each footstep of the ancient Genosaur. It is said that the creature is immortal, renewed like a forest in the aftermath of a great blaze. Much is said of Tarlna, but little is truly known or understood. And I think that's awesome. I love when we get really cool, mysterious lore about this world boss. And sure, we end up killing it and being like, whatever, it's not immortal, but I still think it's really cool, and so that's why Tarlna is number 8. 7. Number 7 are the Raging Ancients, and the Raging Ancients are ancient protectors attacking Splinter Tree Post in Ashenvale. And not only are they attacking it, but they are throwing massive boulders at it, and that's the cool part here. And what makes it even cooler is the boulder actually hits something and shatters into a bunch of little rocks. I mean, they could have made it where, you know, the boulder just got thrown and then it hit and disappeared, right? But they actually added that little bit of detail, that little where you see the pieces of rock go flying as it crashes into something. I love that. Also, I love the jankiness of the boulder gets thrown and then it doesn't actually fly out of his hand for like 2 seconds. I just thought that was funny. And I don't know if it's because of Lord of the Rings with the Ents and the trees coming alive and stuff, but I've always really enjoyed Ancients in World of Warcraft. In fact, I did do a pointless top 10 Ancients before, but these guys weren't even on the top 10 Ancient list. And now thinking back on it, I'm like, dude, I should have put these guys on there. Like, these are some of the coolest mobs in WoW. They're just boulder throwing trees. So yeah, I love these mobs. I think they're great. I actually stumbled across some trees in Stone Talon that were also throwing boulders, but I just like these more. So that's why the Raging Ancients are number 7. 6. Number 6 are the Yongal and the Shah-infested Yongal, which are just Yongal that have been infested by the Shah. And I actually stumbled across these guys the other day when I was looking for something else for Pointless Top 10, and I was like, dude, I forgot all about the Yongal. Like, they're actually really cool. And it does seem that Yongal is a mixture of Yak and Mongol, which, you know, Mongolian Empire, so, well, I guess it would be the Yongols then, not the Yongals. But, you know, tomato, tomato, it doesn't really matter. Although there's probably gonna be some guy in the comments like, technically the Mongol, I don't care. Although, you know what? I don't like when people say tomato. It's weird. Like, just say tomato. Like, I actually don't know anybody that says tomato. Do you know anybody that says tomato? Comment down below. Like, I genuinely don't know anybody that says tomato. I actually know more people that say like tomato or tomatoes than I do tomatoes. Anyway, we've gone completely off track. I think the Yonggals are really cool, and I actually think the Sha-infested Yonggals are really cool. I would play them as an allied race. Just, I know it makes zero sense, and it's just like they're literally just corrupted Yonggals, but I just think they look awesome, and so that's why they're number 6. 5. Number 5 are Tengor and Nolixowan, and they are dinosaurs battling each other located in Zuldazar. And they're actually part of a wanted quest where you have to kill both of them, which I think is just dumb. So the quest itself just says, to any hunters worthy of the challenge, find and defeat the dueling giant Direhorn and Devilsaur named Nolixowan and Tengor. Their never-ending battle has disrupted travel throughout Zuldazar. And I mean, I get it, right? They're disrupting travel throughout Zuldazar. People are like, I don't want to go that way. There's some dueling giant dinosaurs over there. But you know what? That's so cool, right? You have these two massive named giant dinosaurs. They have just been battling it out just for like who knows how long. They've been fighting for just, it could be years, it could be who knows how many years, right? And they're just still duking it out. They're in this intense battle, and then you just end it. You're just like, guys, calm down, we're shutting everything down. It's like, no, just let them keep fighting, dude. They could have just turned it into an event. They could have went HBO. They could have been like, come one, come all to the dinosaur fight. Like, it would have been awesome. But instead, they just take the easy way out. So you know what? That's why they're two of the coolest mobs in the game. And that's why Nolixowan and Tengor are number 5. 4. Number 4 are the Fel Totem Tarans, and the Fel Totem are part of the Blood Totem tribe that have allied with the Burning Legion, at which point they consume the blood of demons and become Felsworn, and then known as Fel Totem. And these are actually the other mob that I mentioned earlier, how I said 2 mobs inspired me to make coolest mobs in World of Warcraft, and this was actually the second one in addition to the Blade's Edge guys. So actually that just made me realize that both of the things that inspired me to make this cool mobs list were corrupted by Fel energy. So I feel like if I was a mob in World of Warcraft, I would probably be corrupted by Fel energy. I'm not gonna lie. And I mean, they really do look cool. They have this green energy radiating from them. They have their horns, which are all morphed and jagged now, unlike the normal horns. They've got big claws. Like, who doesn't want big claws? It gives me Warhammer vibes where you get to like pay points or get stuff, and then you upgrade your guys to have claws or different types of mutations like prehensile tails. Like, it's awesome. But I'm also the guy that always found bad guys cooler. Like, I always hated the boring good guys. They were just kind of generic, but the bad guys had all the cool weapons and armor and all that stuff. So I don't know what that says about me, but I think it's cool. So that's why the Fel Totem Taran are number 4. 3. Number 3 are Devilsaurs, and Devilsaurs are these massive dinosaurs that are primarily located in the Ungoro crater. And I guess we technically had a Devilsaur on this list already when they was fighting the other dinosaur, but you know what's scarier than even fighting another dinosaur is having a massive elite level mob fighting you when you're not even a high enough level, especially if you're in hardcore WoW and you're like, I can't die, I'm like in the low 50s, high 40s, and then all of a sudden you hear the Devilsaur stomping around and you're just like, uh-oh. In fact, I was able to find one of the most well-known dinosaurs here, King Mosh, who's also in Hearthstone. Although at this point, who isn't in Hearthstone? In fact, there's actually a ton of Devilsaurs in World of Warcraft at this point, like numerous named ones, there's a bunch of different mounts and a whole bunch of stuff, but there's just something about these initial Ungoro Crater Devilsaurs that really hits the most as like the coolest mobs, because you really get that immersion sense of this is their jungle, they're the king of the jungle, they're marching around, and if you get in their way, they are going to try to kill you. And I always thought that was really cool, so that's why the Devilsaurs in Ungoro are number 3. 2. Number 2 is Stonehead, and Stonehead is a giant located at the entrance to the Ember Ward in Revendreth. And I love this guy for a few reasons. Number 1 is when you first see him, you're like, wait, that's kind of weird. Why is there this big giant guarding this gate? And then you're like, whatever, I'll just run past him. And so you try to run past him, but he grabs you and he's like, no, pass. And then he just throws you back into the zone. And so then you're like, dude, how do I get past this guy? There's got to be some crazy quest I got to do. There's got to be some, insane way to get past him. Maybe you got to fight him. And it turns out you just got to disguise yourself as a rock. And my favorite part about the rock disguise is as you sneak past him, he just goes, Rocks be busy today. And so this guy just checks all the boxes I have for a cool mob. Like, he's guarding this big gate, so you know he's kind of important, or he's at least going to be some sort of obstacle as you try to get past here. He's got the fun mechanic of picking you up and throwing you, and then the actual way of getting past them is really funny. So I just think all those things are great, and so that's why Stonehead is number 2. 1. And number 1 are Fel Reavers, because why wouldn't I include another Fel thing on this list, right? And so if you don't know what a Fel Reaver is, it is this massive demonic machine that is marching around Hellfire Peninsula, and it's essentially like the Devilsaur of Hellfire, because you would just get to this zone, you'd be walking around, you'd be questing, and you would just hear, that's my best, impersonation of a Fel Reaver. And then you would just get killed. You'd get stomped on, they'd beat you up, and that was that. And it's actually interesting and important to note that back in Burning Crusade, the view distances were a lot less. So even though nowadays you can see across the entire zone, back then it was pretty common to just get hit by stuff that didn't appear on your screen until it was too close to really get away. And so I really do think it was a product of its time, where the viewing and rendering distances being so low, and then a lot of people just playing World of Warcraft even for the first time and stumbling around, not really knowing that much and being like, what is this? And giving people like post-traumatic stress. Like, Fel Reavers truly were one of the coolest mobs and still are one of the coolest mobs. And that's why they're number 1. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this episode of Pointless Top 10. If you want more Top 10s, you can check out unusual mobs in World of Warcraft that I mentioned earlier, or you can check out Top 10 Ancients that I also mentioned earlier. Also, like, comment, subscribe, and let me know down below what you think the coolest mob in World of Warcraft is. Okay? Okay. See ya.